Mysterious unknown drones piqued the interest of the public, politicians, and politicians alike between 2024 and early 2025. Numerous reports that these flying craft were reported along the East Coast, specifically in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. The FBI, DHS, FAA, and the DoD issued a joint statement in December declaring that they were not from an enemy, but instead from hobbyists, law enforcement planes, and helicopters mistaken for drones.
Mystery objects exhibiting advanced technology are still loitering in our skies, apparently, at times near military installations and even close to nuclear power plants. Joining us now to dive in is Marik Von Rennenkampff, a contributor for The Hill. Welcome, Marik.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I think for a lot of people, these drones dropped off the radar, so to speak, after that announcement that we alluded to in December. But you think that that is incorrect and that we should still be, I think, concerned about these things. So what's going on?
We should absolutely still be concerned about these sightings. And I just want to say that I bring a kind of a national security perspective to this. And I'm not so much focused on let's call it hysteria. A lot of what we did see in New Jersey was indeed hysteria. I have a minor bone to pick with your producers because the footage you showed was actually of an airliner. So there was a rampant misidentification in those New Jersey incidents that generated all those headlines. But I am far more concerned about 6 or 7 years now worth of intrusions, just brazen, blatant intrusions over sensitive military sites. And we can dive into those, but the bottom line is these objects have been hovering over nuclear missile facilities in Nebraska. They've been swarming ships 100 miles off the coast of California, as many as a dozen at a time. The only imagery that we've actually seen of these objects is of a spherical object that slowly moves across the screen in front of a Navy destroyer and then descends into the ocean. So it's a mystery, and somebody, from my perspective, some unknown actor is putting on just a brazen display of impunity.
Yeah, and just to go back a little bit to the varying explanations we've had of what these objects are from our government, I've been very dissatisfied with that because when this New Jersey incident happened, when we saw the drones there and the planes and helicopters that were misidentified, as you said, at first the government said that it was all hobbyists. It was nothing to worry about. It was private individuals using the drones. Well, then there were multiple reports of them flying over these military installations. Now, I don't think anyone believes that the government or the military would simply allow a hobbyist to fly a drone over a military installation and do nothing about it. And so, to me, that fuels the speculation that this is either government property or that of a foreign actor, and they're worried about sparking some kind of conflict if they decide to shoot them down. What's your take on that?
You hit the nail on the head, and I suspect that the vast majority of the government is truly mystified and stumped by this, and they're in kind of damage control mode, and they're just punting. They don't know what to say, so they punt. We saw this with the Biden administration. They had horrendous messaging on this. Trump pledged to get to the bottom of this on day one. And then as soon as he got into office, same thing, horrendous messaging. They have no answers. And I want to point your viewers to a recent 60 Minutes piece that actually, there were 3 four-star generals, 2 recently retired and 1 active four-star general, 2 of them responsible for aerospace defense over North America, NORAD. And those 12 stars said, we have no idea what's going on. We tried jamming these objects. They are impervious to jamming. We have no imagery on them. And just to kind of bolster that point, the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator Wicker, said, and he's a member of the Gang of 8. He is read into truly the highest the highest level security briefings available. And the direct quote is the Pentagon is, quote, still mystified by these incursions after 6 years of consistent incursions, brazen incursions, again, with flashing lights that occurred over and over and over. So this is a major issue, regardless of it's China, Russia, hobbyists, which I think we can, let's not rule anything out, regardless of its non-human intelligence, that buzzword. This is a major crisis. It's a concern, and nobody's really paying attention to it from my perspective.
So 2 things, Marik. One is in relation to the point you just raised. I was struck reading one of your recent pieces for the Hill about how long this has actually been going on, because I had thought that the drones thing basically came to prominence sort of last fall, the period that we were alluding to in our introduction. And you mentioned the fact that back in 2019, objects with bright flashing lights swarmed some of the Navy's most advanced warships over the coast of California. There was an instance in 2023 over an Air Force base, and this goes beyond the US as well. There was a series of incursions over American bases in the UK. So firstly, this has been going on a while. Secondly, it has a large geographical range. But thirdly, what is your best guess as to what this is all about?
Now we're getting into speculation territory where I'm fairly, frankly, uncomfortable going. But
Okay.
I have a hard time that China or Russia or an adversary would do such a brazen display. So I'll just take the Langley Air Force Base example, which is in late 2023. For 17 nights, objects with bright flashing lights hovered and flew over that facility. The Air Force, the FBI, and NASA, which has a facility there, were clueless. They were completely outgunned. They had no idea what to do and what to make of these incidents, which is extraordinary. So I have a hard time thinking that a foreign adversary would be so brazen, because that risks a major geopolitical crisis. It's possible, but it does risk a major geopolitical crisis. Rule number one of surveillance is be stealthy, don't be caught. And bright flashing lights tends to kind of go against that basic of tradecraft, of intelligence collection tradecraft. Hobbyists, I have a hard time believing that. So that raises countless questions. The plot really thickens, Niall, when you look back to the historical record, and there are numerous documented incidents, this is in government records, where objects with bright flashing lights hovered, flew in formation over sensitive military facilities. I'll give you one example. In 1965, several hundred objects were observed by nuclear missile security forces above F.E. Warren Air Force Base. And if you read the report, it's exactly what we're seeing today.
So, talking to other people who cover this issue, one of the things I hear consistently is that there's effectively two reasons why the US government will never admit that they are mystified by these objects. One, of course, is not to cause public panic, but the other is that if these are flying objects that are from the Chinese or the Russians, the US would be effectively admitting to their global adversaries that they are not familiar with technology that they possess. Do you think that that is a possibility? And sorry to put you back in speculation zone again, but is it possible that China does have some kind of aircraft, that technology that the US doesn't have access to, and they're reluctant to admit that publicly because they don't want to give China the win?
It's absolutely possible. I'm open to all scenarios, but my analytic brain tends to doubt that theory. Because the Chinese, you can just look this up, right? They've struggled with basic jet engine technology. They copy and steal, frankly, a lot of the technology that they put out from the United States. When they put out a new fighter, it just looks exactly like our previous generation of fighters. But look, I'm open to any possibilities. But when you think about the behavior and kind of the brazen display of this, I don't think any country would just float and highlight for all military eyes to see its most advanced technology for 17 nights, for example, over an Air Force base, a critical Air Force base. But hey, look, I'm open to it, and I think that's all the more reason. Let's remove sourcing and origin of these objects and these incidents. Let's just treat this as a crisis, because it is. And frankly, the media has done an abysmal job of reporting on this, and kudos to you guys for covering it.
Well, thank you. And I tend to agree with you on the Chinese technology point. On the brazenness, they did fly a spy balloon across the entire continental U.S., so I guess anything is possible. Real quick,
Can
Mark.
I quickly just add on that? I'll just add on the Chinese spy balloon. I think we've now heard from President Biden and the former NORAD commander, and there's been reporting in the Washington Post that I think the consensus in the national security community is that spy balloon was intended to fly over Hawaii and Guam and was caught up in and unseasonable winds. And that's I think we have now enough sources saying that that's what actually happened and that was not the intent. That's not to say China is a major adversary, and I'm not downplaying that, but I just want to be crystal clear on the data and the facts as we know them as they stand today.
Absolutely. Thank you for the update on that story. And Mark, thanks for joining us this morning on Rising.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. All right, up next, RFK Jr. says that he will find the cause of autism by September. You heard that right. Up next.